Welcome to IGEL Disrupt 2024, taking place at the Diplomat Beach Resort in Miami. And I have the pleasure of having Carl Gersh with me from IGEL. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me here.
Now, we talked briefly before the show, leading up to it, but now we're actually here, and it looks like you've had a great turnout. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about how the event's been going so far.
You bet. It is super exciting to be here. And the reality is when we sat down to plan out Disrupt in 2024, we put some pretty significant goals in front of ourselves. Right? Disrupt has always been a great end user show, but we challenge ourselves to say, how can we make Disrupt 24 the best Disrupt ever? So we implemented a few key things based on feedback we heard from our guests. We focused on making sure that content came first. So as people heard through the two keynotes, we made over 20 announcements around advancements IGEL is making with our partner community, our ecosystem partner community, to advance end user computing into the future. We also looked at putting together content tracks for the breakouts, so people in, say, healthcare could participate and understand which content tracks were specific to healthcare, which breakouts were specific to healthcare. We put together content tracks around CXO. We put content tracks around EUC transformation, and we put a content track around cybersecurity. So that worked out, I think, really, really well. Again, we've gotten excellent feedback from that. We also had we kicked things off with boot camps, which sold out almost immediately. So people that wanted to get a technical deep dive into the technology from IGEL, from Citrix, from Omnissa, and from our other vendors could do that. And again, the response there was really good. People walked away with a really deep understanding of the technologies that are going to be impacting end user computing, for now and for next.
And that's right. You guys kind of broke it out into, the keynote from today was now, and then tomorrow's keynote is going to be next. Could you go into some of the detail on some of the announcements that were made during the keynote?
You bet. So one of the things we did was we discussed the rebrand of IGEL and our repositioning in 2024. We heard Klaus speak about how IGEL is focused on being the secure endpoint for now and next, and our preventative security model, which kind of underpins our secure approach to endpoint, end user computing and endpoints. From there, though, we made some really significant announcements about IGEL as a full-fledged operating system company. Right? Most significant, I think, to me was the fact that we talked about IGEL being able to deploy local apps. Right? So traditionally, a lot of people use IGEL to deploy VDI and DAS, but what we're seeing is a growing group of customers who are looking at progressive web apps and looking at trying to deploy natively, and we're putting things in place to make that easier than ever before. Another thing we heard about was secure browser. It seems to be a very, very hot topic right now.
Right.
So with, as I mentioned, secure web apps, having a secure browser from either Citrix or from Island deployed helps organizations with the options available to them to be able to have secure end user compute that delivers a great user experience. On the hardware side, there were some very, very interesting things announced during the first keynote. We saw the multi-monitor support from HP, where we were able to drive 6 displays all running 4K off of a single client running IGEL OS.
That's pretty impressive. Yeah.
That's pretty significant. I thought that was neat myself, and that's great for financial services organizations or other organizations where, again, you usually kind of ingest data from multiple screens all in one. We heard about how with Lenovo and their ability to deploy Azure Stack, right, that you can now is fully compatible with IGEL. So for organizations that want to use Azure Stack and maybe deploy a Win365 or Cloud PC internally, they can do that, and that works well with IGEL. And then last but not least, we saw the Improvada kiosk from LG, right? So healthcare organizations where it is really critical to minimize the downtime, to maximize patient exposure. Someone can come in, badge and go, a physician or clinician can badge and go. That support was really, really important also, and we were able to demonstrate that. So those are just some of the cool things that we're solving today, helping our clients.
So what about the next?
Sure. So we talked about the now, and then we look forward to the next. So I'd be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about AI. So the discussion of IGEL support of Intel's Meteor Lake through Lenovo to have AI-enabled capabilities is something that's really exciting. A little bit, there's more to come on that, but we will be fully supporting AI, and AI chipsets moving forward. We also discussed the app creation capability. Right, so many organizations are using off-the-shelf apps, but as we discussed in the now portion of our keynotes, organizations looking to deploy natively on IGEL, and we want to make that super easy for them. So our app creation capability, where someone can come in and essentially, not quite drag and drop, but create an app, package it, and deploy it on IGEL, is something that we're working towards. And we think that's going to be really, really meaningful for a lot of organizations, across healthcare, financial services, retail, and the like. We also talked about the new user interface that's coming with OS 12. So there's been a lot of work done to make it more attractive and easier to interface than ever before. So we showed some of that, and there's a lot of work being done by the development team, in that regard. And then I'd say there's two other things I thought were really, really significant. One was, we heard from Citrix how we're going to be natively supporting Uber Agent. So certainly there's a lot of options for DEX, and I think that underlies the fact that DEX is critically important to organizations. So our support of Uber Agent, natively on IGEL is something that's going to, I think, help those organizations that are using Citrix and want to use Uber Agent be able to do so even more effectively. And then last but not least, something that I think everyone's kind of asked us about all along is, what about IoT, what about digital signage and things like that? And we made some announcements around, looking forward how IGEL is going to be expanding the capabilities and what you can do with our operating system into areas like digital signage with organizations like LG.
That's one thing we really like about this show, that we keep coming back every year, and it just keeps getting better, and it's how everybody here is really open to communicating, and it's like a big family.
It really is. It really is. I mean, it's truly, there's a community element to what we have here in this section, this little sector of information technology that we call EUC. And the event like IGEL Disrupt, really, where we see all these organizations, some of whom compete with one another, come together to interface with each other, interface with end users, work with the resellers, the solution providers, and talk about how we can set aside some of our differences, work together, and move things forward. I think is pretty cool, and it's something we see. It grows every single year.
Now, what are some of the trends that you see in the EUC space, moving forward into the future, the next?
Sure.
Yeah, where's it going?
Sure. So, I know you and I have talked about this in some of our previous conversations, right? But it's a very interesting time overall for business, right? We went through, COVID, and I don't want to belabor that, but coming out of COVID now, there's a lot of discussion around hybrid workspace, how organizations can sort of best situate themselves now to engage with workers, to maintain productivity and increase productivity and things like that. IT fundamentally has to support those moves. So there's a lot of options out there. Organizations sort of have to chart their course as to what technologies they're going to deploy now, what technologies do I need to deploy moving forward, and it's really a pretty wide open field, right? So an event like Disrupt, where an end user can talk to a variety of different technology vendors, talk to other customers, right? Talk to solution providers to help them make sense of all the options available to them, and come back to their organization perhaps with some concrete plans on, this is what we're going to do now, and then here's what we're going to do to move forward. I think it's pretty compelling.
Well, Carl, as always, it's a pleasure speaking with you, and we look forward to the rest of the show.
Excellent. Glad you guys are here. Thanks for your support.
Thanks for having us.